As today we got a very important guest today with us to be sharing amazing experience about character designs and tips and tricks, hacks, and everything about this awesome things we do in the industry and questions. We got too many questions to ask for our guests. Please welcome with us artist Stephen Silver. Hello there, Stephen.
Hello, how are you? How is everyone?
Everything is going here quite well. What about you?
Good, thank you. I'm just out here in California, in Los Angeles. It's about 1 p.m. on a Monday. So far, so good.
That's awesome, actually. We are going to start first with a couple of unscripted questions before we head to the scripted ones we sent you.
Okay.
Well, the first one is, what's your secret origin?
What's my secret origin?
Yeah, as a superhero, what's your secret origins as a super artist?
I think the ability to observe people. That's a good superpower. Yeah, through there. That's something that has really helped guide me in my art, and having that ability and learning how to do that earlier on has really helped navigate my career.
Hmm. So, is this your only superpower?
It's yeah, I wish I could say I could fly. I wish I could. That would be one thing that I would want to do, and I wish I could time travel, but unfortunately, I haven't figured those things out yet.
Well, so do you play video games?
I used to a lot, but I don't anymore. I think when my kids were younger, I used to, and then I just, yeah, just I don't know why I stopped. I was so into it all the time, and it just eventually just kind of vanished out of my life. I had to wean myself from it. I think slowly but surely. It's just like maybe it was taking up too much of my time, and I realized I'm spending way too much time doing this.
Well, so every artist have his own secret arsenal of weapons. So, what's your secret weapons you are using to bring this amazing and awesome art? The tools of trade, things like this.
Yeah, I think it's just the mighty pencil is there's a certain pencil that I love using. It's called a COL erase pencil. And it's like either a red pencil or it's purple or blue. So I switch between red, purple, and blue. And those are like the three pencils that I really love using more than anything else, because they sort of like glide along the paper, and I can keep things just very light-handed, but then get very dark if I need to get dark with it.
Hmm. That's cool. So, another thing is, do you have a secret hobby?
Secret hobby? No, that's
I
the
do.
one thing.
If I wasn't an artist, I would be a chef
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
kitchen. So, what's your secret
No,
hobby?
nothing. I wish I could say I was a singer. That would be the one secret thing. If I could have some sort of extra power, secret thing, I would love to have been able to be a musician, a singer, guitar player, and play live in clubs and just do things like that. I think that would just be so cool. I sometimes do fantasize about that when I hear certain singers, just like good soul and just on the guitar or playing piano, and they got a good voice. I'm just like, and they're doing it solo. I go, man, that would be so amazing just to be able to do that, just show up and do that, and just that would be cool. But unfortunately, it's not real.
So, you did amazing job actually as a character designer. We do learn much from you, from every character design you make in same show. Maybe we do learn from it. So, how did you break into the industry?
Well, I started when I was around 18 doing caricatures live. And that was my first professional start and career was doing that. And that really built up my foundation, my observation skills. It built up my speed. And it did a lot of beneficial things for me by doing the caricatures. And then I had met someone who worked at Warner Brothers Animation on a show called Freakazoid. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I remember
this was,
Freakazoid.
Yeah. So this was back in like 1995 and 96, and this was in 1997 when I had met this person, and I had shown them. I had met them in 1996. And then it took me about a year to build up the confidence and artwork to show them my work again. And I showed it to them, and they liked what they saw, and they took it and gave it to a director at Warner Brothers, and they were looking for a character designer at that time, and they liked what was in my portfolio. So then they gave me a test, which is what all the studios will do. And from that point, that's what got me the job, and that's how I started back in 1997. Yeah, at Warner Brothers Television Animation on a show called Hysteria.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's so cool indeed. So the next question is, what influences have shaped your art? You do have a unique taste about recreating any shapes and making any shapes from scratch and adjusting live faces, live portraits, and changing them, moving them to many different styles in cartoons and comics and illustrations. So, what have shaped your own art style?
So my heroes, where it really started for me, was a magazine called Mad Magazine. And that was something that was very influential to me. The artists, there was a couple of artists, specifically a man named Mort Drucker and another man named Jack Davis. And I really, their caricature ability and just the way they would draw the human figures and the humorous illustration was something that really drove and got me started. And then from there, it was really just, so again, the observation, right? That's almost like the superpower, is just to be able to observe and look at things and analyze them. And another great artist was Al Hirschfeld, was another great influence. So once I discovered Al Hirschfeld, his line is very organic and simple. And I thought that was just something that, wow, I really loved how he did his line, and I would try to mimic that and copy. And from there, over the years, it just starts to build. And I realized, as I was very illustrative in the beginning too, where I was putting in a lot more details, and I realized that I can get the same effect without having as many details, and it's going to be less work for me to put in so much line and everything. So I started just to eliminate lines and just really just focus on the shapes and the variety and the contrast, and that's what helped out.
Mm-hmm. But your ability to move between styles while using the same style of yours, changing characters into cartoons, you do have like maybe 3 or 4 art styles. Does this depend on how many details you do put on the character design or the shape you're designing through the many lines or the fewer lines you are using?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think one of the main important goals as a character designer, especially in the television or the feature film industry, is to be versatile and to be like a chameleon. So you can adapt and work in different styles, and that way it gives you more opportunities. So that's something that I'll definitely switch between those ideas. And it always just depends on the clients where, yeah, maybe it does need to be a little bit more simplified. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more complex, but having the knowledge is the most important thing. If you have the knowledge of the fundamentals and just drawing and you're working on things, that'll help you when you're switching styles, and then you can go back and forth just depending on what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. That's so helpful indeed. So tell us about your workflow as an artist. So how do you start from scratch till the final product we see at the TV or on the books?
So how it usually starts, let me just, if I'm working in, say, with a studio for television production, what will happen is once I'm contacted from that studio or that person would be to start taking the actual drawing, the script. You got to start basing it off a script. And once I get my script and I get a premise, then I can start just drawing off of that idea. And that's when I'm going to present it to the client. And then once the client sees what direction they want to go, they say, hey, we really like you going in that direction. Then I'll start developing it more. And then if they need me to take it to clean, sometimes they don't need me to clean it up. Sometimes, oftentimes they don't need me to color it. That's going to be someone else's job, but I'll usually present them with a lot of different ideas. So maybe they want a specific character, and I'll do anywhere from 5 to 20 different variations of that character, of an idea, and let them decide, yeah, we really like this direction. And then I go from that point. And my job is usually done after my cleanup line. If I've taken the rough design and then I do my cleanup line, it's finished, especially in the television production side, because they'll have other people that will do their color that specialize in that. So it's not necessarily something that I specialize in. I'll do it if I have to, but I'm not always required to do that. And that's how the typical production pipeline will go with most studios, with anything that I'm doing, is always that research, starting with research. Who is this character? What do I need to know about the character? What are their costume? Looking at hairstyles, looking at whatever I can grab and use that to help get me to where I need to go.
So you just said you do your own studies about the characters, the era, and the clothes, the weapons, the props the characters is using. So how do you start making this study? Like if I've asked you to design a character for steampunk, since steampunk is a fancy era that doesn't have any basic structure, you have to read a couple books about it and just start imagining things, where maybe view movies from the back of the 50s and 60s maybe about this steampunk. So how do you start making studies about characters we get involved with this era?
Well, yeah. So the first thing is, of course, knowing that is very helpful. So now I know, say I have to draw a steampunk crocodile. Maybe that's the idea. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to just type in, maybe am I doing a male or a female, right? So let's just say that I'm doing a male crocodile. I'm going to type in steampunk males, steampunk outfits for males. And I'll start to look at all this visual reference, and I see all these little thumbnails of all these amazing costumes. And then from there, now I want to grab the first thing before I even start thinking about an alligator or a crocodile is I'm just going to start copying a bunch of different ideas. Oh, look, the goggles, the hats. Oh, they got all the gears on their arm or something. And that's a cool boot. I like those boots. I like whatever it may be. So I'm starting just to block in all my little reference. And that's all it is. Little quick sketches. Nothing determined. The next thing I want to do is grab a crocodile and start drawing from crocodile reference and try to find out, what does a crocodile look like? And I'll just create some different ideas with that. But I got to understand a little bit about the story too. Who is this character? Are they a shy character? Are they heavy set? Are they skinny? What is it about this character that I can start to think about? So, and once I start to add that, say the body shape, I'll start to draw the body shape first of the crocodile. Then I'll start to implement different shapes for they got the gloves, they got this weapon, they got this helmet, they got these goggles. And then I'll start playing with those ideas. And eventually when I'm happy with the direction it goes, and I'll just start developing that idea a little bit further.
Well, that's so cool indeed. Many thanks for the deep and rich answer you just gave us. Well, how this question we got from one of our audience here is how to be professional for the character design industry, since there is too many character designers out there in cartoons, anime, comics, and games. How to be specific character superstar character designer?
You got to have a focus. I think and it all comes in your portfolio and on your website, that when you're showing your work, that you're really showing that you're an expert or good in that field, say as a character designer, that you're not having to draw, you're not showing landscapes and props and then characters and then props and landscapes, and it's just a real good consistent portfolio on your website, just to show the versatility. So what people want to see is that you're versatile, that you can handle drawing in different styles, because every single project has a different need. There's going to be you're talking about from SpongeBob style to Kim Possible style or something, right? There's a lot of variation in there. So the more versatility, variety you can show, the better. And then just it's also very important to show that you understand production. So maybe what does production mean? It means that you're showing that I can take a character's idea from rough sketch to finish. I can show that I can give that character attitudes and a personality, draw expressions. I want to be able to show a turnaround of that character. So I'm showing them production work. And when you're showing the client just this production sort of essence, it gives them a little bit more confidence that you know what you're doing. And not everything needs to be in color. Not everything needs to be completely finished and final. It's just that you have good ideas, because that's what a lot of the studios and the people are looking for, is they're looking for your ideas. And if they go, wow, they can handle it and got some good ideas, then that's a great thing.
Well, that's cool indeed. You just told us in the first moments of this interview, that you got amazing skills at observing. So you are good and a great observer. And you just told us focus is a great skill for every character designer to have. So, and you told us about having variety about the works you do. So you just told us about focus, observing, and having variety in the work. Are those three the major important parts about being a character designer?
Yeah, well, they are. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects, right? But again, observation is key, because you need to, this is what's going to help you bring feeling into your work as a character designer. So if you're missing the feeling in your designs, and you can't just look, what you want to do is be able to look at an image of a character design and get at least a sense about who that character is without having a whole backstory or everything. So incorporating feeling into your drawings is going to be essential. And I think just a good handling of construction, like how to build your character. I think there's a lot of people who sometimes they have the ideas, but their execution when they're actually designing, it just falls apart because they don't really understand how to construct the figure. And then if they're missing the construction, most likely they're missing a feeling within the character too. So those are real essential things. Yeah, it's the observation, it's the feeling, it's the construction are going to be more essential ingredients.
Well, that's amazing to hear just from you. Well, many of us, when we go to a company, we do start flipping and collecting all of our projects or character designs on the disk and put them on a file as a portfolio and head there to the studio. Well, judging from my own little experience, 2 years, this doesn't work. You have to pick and prepare. You have some rules to be prepared while applying for a job at the studio. So how do you build your own portfolio?
So yeah, building your portfolio again, the thing that's going to be important is making sure that you have a specific role that you want to fill. I want to get a job as a character designer. I want to get a job as a prop designer. I want to be a background layout artist. I want to be an illustrator. So know what that is. Try to identify what that is. And then my advice that I give to people a lot is just think about designing your portfolio like if you were to look at a menu in a restaurant. If I was going just for specific food, maybe it's Indian food, Chinese food, American food, just that's what I'm looking at. You don't want to have it all over the place. Could you imagine going to, say you're going to get Indian food, going to a restaurant, and then they have all these different things on there and it's not really Indian food at all? It's got a little bit of it. It's going to be confusing. Otherwise, what people do is they don't separate their portfolio into sections like you would like an appetizer, your main course, your dessert. What they're doing is they're mixing and matching everything. So I might scroll through their portfolio, and like I had mentioned, you might see a character design, but the next thing you see is an illustration. Then the next thing you see is maybe a graphic design. Then you see a character design again. Then you see a prop, and it's just nothing's organized. So the most essential thing you can do is truly just organize your portfolio so that it's clean, it's clear, it's readable, and people know exactly who you are and what it is you want to do.
Well, be organized, just organize your own portfolio, guys. Well, if you got any questions to ask to artist Stephen Silver here, feel free to send them on the Facebook or Twitch or the YouTube links of this podcast. We, artist Stephen Silver, would like to answer all of our questions here. We are so happy and so glad to have him here with us tonight. So, as for this question, actually is I find it a very general one, but I would like to hear this from you. How do you build imagination? Imagination is a very tricky one. I have found through my career there's so many amazing artists out there, but that when you look at their portfolio, look at their sketches, they do amazing works from lines, shapes, shadows. They does amazing things, but when you start asking them to start drawing from imagination and creating things, they just lose control. Oh, they don't know what to do. So how do you build imagination?
I think you just building imagination is going to come. It has to come from life at first. I think it's very important to make sure that you're an artist. Again, taps into observation again, where you're out, you're sketching people, you're looking at people. You might look at someone who walks by you and they're got a hunchback, or they're all hunched over, and they're really old and they're just shuffling as they walk, and you observe these ideas. And maybe you're able to capture them. And then what you want to do is from there, this is you start to build in your memory, right? So next time you're going to draw that old person, you're going to have something that you can pull from a resource that you experienced this, you saw this one day, and that's where the imagination will start to come from. But it also comes from just reading books, watching movies, just, paying attention to, you might see a commercial and something inspires you, but then, and then looking at other artists' works. So what it is, it's a collection of all these different ideas, all these different thoughts that it will eventually just come out as your imagination. And that's why sometimes you see people with greater imaginations than other people for the sole purpose that they've had, number one, maybe just a lot more experience. Maybe they're just more well-versed in just from watching movies and have a photographic memory and they can recall a lot of things. But I feel that it all just comes from that. So the things that I always encourage people to do is, number one is draw from life. Number two, draw from photographs. And then number three, just draw from your imagination. Right? So you're mixing those three elements in your sketchbooks as you're learning and you're drawing. I'm drawing from life, I'm drawing from photos, and I'm making up some of my own stuff and just letting my mind wander. And then you might even just start with just a simple idea. There's a very famous artist, you may have heard of him, Norman Rockwell. And what he would do when he was painting his illustrations, sometimes to start, he would just start with one simple object. Say it was a lamppost. He'd start with the lamppost, and that lamppost, okay, maybe someone's leaning up against the lamppost. Okay, let me draw someone leaning up. Oh, maybe that person's a sailor. Okay, now the sailor's leaning up against the lamppost. And then, well, maybe that sailor has a dog. Then let's give them a dog. And then it starts to transition from there. So sometimes even just starting with one object, you might just start off with an object that you see, like something that I like to do, that I teach a lot of my students to do, is drawing from objects. Find an object, anything, household object around your house. It could be a soap dispenser. It could be anything. And you grab that and look at the shape of that and just start to just draw and just see what you can turn that into. Does it look like something? Can it turn into something? And using that can help just expand the imagination. So you constantly want to do these things. It's like it's a muscle. So you're developing that muscle in your, just from going from your head to your hand, and you can say, okay, I've done this before. And eventually that's where you get that imagination becoming a lot richer.
Well, that's so important actually to hear. Does reading books help with imagination?
Yeah, well, absolutely, because it's going to spawn it's going to just give you just these different ideas of for characters that you may not have thought of, or maybe that author is writing about someone or a situation that sounds interesting, and then you can start to develop a character or style off of that. Again, it allows you to envision something just from words, where without actually seeing. So yeah. Everyone's interpretation is going to be different. You know, I could read the exact same thing about this old gloomy man who walked through the room and his hair was gold. It was just white as clouds, and his mustache hung lower than his chin. And, you know, you start to just wonder, what does that sound? What does that look like? And it's almost like a police description. Like, oh, I saw this person and they ran by and they were wearing this sort of baseball hat and they had this. Okay, let me try to draw all that down. And that's a great way just to see what you come up with.
Oh, that's amazing. So amazing indeed. So how do you create your own art style? This is a very tricky one, actually, because many of the artists out there, they just don't have an art style. They just try to mimic other artists, and those are second-level artists. While the first-level artists are the ones that kind of like got pissed with themselves and started judging themselves and asking, I should have my own art style. This artist is great and all, but I can be a great artist too. So how can everyone get an art style?
So much of it is relaxing into it, to be honest. I used to be the same way. How do I find my own style? And I realized that your style is already within you. It's like it's inherently within you. You just need to do so many drawings in order to get it out and allow yourself to not just, even though you've done your practice, you're learning, you're mimicking other artists, you're copying, you're trying to find their approaches, their techniques. But a lot of it is you and your own personal time spent drawing and trying to figure things out. And you'll come across a way of doing something. You'll do something and you'll be like, hey, that really feels good. And you start to run with it and you start to analyze that and go, what is it about that thing that I did that feels good or feels different, instead of forcing it? And sometimes I've even heard artists who were having so much trouble trying to develop their own style because they were influenced by so many other people. They got rid of all their books, of all their people that were influencing them, and stopped looking at everyone else's work and just gave themselves their time just to do what they were going to do and not worry whether it looked like someone else's work or not. And eventually that's how you start to find your own voice. It's just like the way your own handwriting, right? You have your own way of handwriting that is uniquely different than everyone else on the planet's handwriting. The way that you talk, the way that your voice comes out is uniquely different from everyone else on the planet. That's the same thing with art. It's there. You just got to allow yourself through the repetition, through doing it so much that eventually that voice comes out.
Well, that's so cool indeed. Actually, for the art style, you just say it's so simple. So we got a sample here for a character design you made for Spider-Man, Kingpin, and Mary Jane. Is this Flash Thompson or what?
Yeah, that was some very early development of the Spider-Man TV series that they were doing at Sony many, many years ago.
So, well, there is very difference between the shapes you use here between the Kingpin, Spider-Man, and Mary Jane. They all look they are from the same universe, but every character of them have his own characteristic types. Like when we look at Spider-Man, we look at his face. He's mixing between the modern style and the old, very, very old classic style at his face. Why you just approved it by the wings you added to his arms. At the same time, when you look at Kingpin, you are using modern and old style for the scarf he's wearing, the lines, while his face is totally the new version we see of the Kingpin. So how do you manage these things?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's just kind of understanding, just reading through the comics and knowing a little bit about the history of it. And then just trying to think of just something else, just adding different elements to make it just a little bit different and not make it look like it has been, you know. But there's also those elements that people expect, right? So you can't go so far in changing the colors or certain aspects of Spider-Man before people just don't believe it's Spider-Man anymore. And it's going to be a whole new character. With the Kingpin, there's that certain aspect which people from the comics and everything else, we knew he was a bigger, you know, sort of larger than life character, and the sort, you know, the boldness to him, which was very prevalent, and adding that. So it was just manipulating those shapes just a little bit to give it its own little twist.
Well, I remember watching, viewing an image of you just playing with the letters and the face at the same time, using the T and the V and U shapes for the face. It does help so much with the character designs, transforming any character design or shape into a cartoony or a cartoon shape. So we got here characters from Game of Thrones, everyone's favorite. Actually, it's so much fun to look at. They are so cartoony, so exaggerated, but at the same time, they are the characters of the show indeed. So it's kind of difficult to have these characters to like you are teleporting between the portals of the living and the portal of the cartoon. So is there a key you are using to adjust every character while imagining it, giving it a cartoony feel like you did with Hounds, Lady Brian, Lady Sansa? Every character you did here, like you got a key in your mind and you are using this to transform this character into a cartoon. So what are those keys?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that I do when I'm doing this is I have to watch the show. So oftentimes what I'm doing when I'm designing these, I'm watching the show while I'm just doing rough sketches, because then I get to see the character move around. I don't draw from just a still reference. I'll grab a still reference, a photo of the character when I'm ready to actually start maybe implementing elements of their uniform or whatever they're wearing. And then the idea is just to, I'm still kind of just playing with about, that's maybe 7-8 heads rule with the characters. I just make the heads a little bit bigger. That's what I'm sort of like my main focus to. So they almost look like they have the real body, the human proportions. And I'm just making the heads just slightly bigger. Excuse me, to let my dog out. And so that's something that I'm just using all the time and that's how I manipulate cross between the two. So I'm thinking about actual human proportion, because otherwise there's the other art style where you can just get real exaggerated, a giant head, little tiny legs, so that I'm thinking about the anatomy. I have to think about just the rib cage and the pelvis, and I'm thinking about just, that the arms have a relationship to the legs, and those are the sort of things that are going through my mind.
Do you study the characteristics of the character itself before you start making it into cartoon? Like if there's a striker, feel free to talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to I'm usually doing a lot of different studies. So it's very rarely that I'll just do one design and just hit it and just draw it straight away and just get that. Sometimes it happens. I'm like, oh, there it is. It's just that first design, that first drawing that I did got me to where I need to be. And then other times it is a lot of the development, a few sketches. Again, there could be anywhere from 2 sketches up to 20 sketches, 30 of the exact same character, just trying to figure them out.
Well, we got a question from our audience here. What's your advice for artists? What should they do every day to help them in their career to reach their dreams?
I think the most important thing is just truly know what it is that you want to do, that nothing that you do or decide that you want to do today is a life sentence. You know what I'm saying? If I decide that I want to be a character designer today, it doesn't mean that I have to do that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that this is my commitment, that there's the ball and chain that I have to do this. It's just that you decide, what area you want to get into, know what you want to sort of be. And then from there, it's that daily practice. It's just doing it with intention, so that every time you're practicing and that you're drawing, you're not just drawing, okay, I'm drawing every day. They told me to draw every day. I'm drawing every day. But you're drawing every day with a purpose, that here's my intention. I want to get better at drawing expressions. I want to get better at drawing hands. I want to get better at drawing feeling. And so then you start focusing on those aspects and making sure, once again, that you're drawing from observation as much as you can, because that's what's going to make your art that much better.
Well, you just answered this so amazingly, but I would like to make this question harder on you, since you agreed to help us. So what if this artist have an art block?
What if the artist has an art book?
An art block.
Oh, an art block. One of the big things that I recommend is to have, I've always collected books over the years of different artists. Whether it just like one of my favorite artists is like Asterix and Obelix, Uderzo, who does that. I just love his artwork, and it's just finding things that you can actually physically pick up sometimes, or now there's a lot of great websites, and you can look through websites and look through the artists that you like, but you don't want to spend so much time looking at other people's artwork, because then you never get anything of your own done. But that's what happens. We all have it. Like, everyone's going to have an artist block, but usually the artist block comes from just simply not knowing what it is you really want, not having an intention behind what it is that you're actually doing. Because you will struggle with your art. If I do know what I'm doing, if someone says design a steampunk crocodile, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Can I still have an artist block? Yeah, but it's more of just like a struggle of just working through it to try to eventually get to the drawing that I want, but I have an intention. The artist block oftentimes comes when you just have no idea what your intention even is. What is your purpose? Why am I even doing this? So when there's no purpose, then that's where blockage comes from. So having a purpose for what it is you're trying to do, I'm drawing this because I want to get better at gesture. I'm doing this because I want to improve upon my caricature ability. What are those reasons? And through that, you'll find that you'll have less and less and less artist blocks.
Well, that's so awesome. Actually, we did love this answer you just came up with. So, looking at this image from my experience, this is a superhero and this is a cowboy, a Western cowboy. They both have huge bodies, stronger limbs, capes, masks. But the one on the left, he is indeed a superhero. I don't know if the one on the left is a villain or not, but he does look kind of like he's a villain, maybe, or maybe he is a bad Western cowboy. You use the same features between here and there, manipulate between being fat here on the left or being strong here, having some muscles here on the right. So, how did you use those features up to life to create those characters?
Well, I think the thing that I'm always looking for when developing any characters or any lineup of characters is contrast. I want to have contrast. I don't want the characters to feel like they all look the same, right? And sometimes in the superhero universe, that's what you always end up seeing. You see all the same sort of shapes and the same, characters. Like imagine if you look at, say, like Justice League or something like that, or artwork from Bruce Timm with his superheroes, you get a lot of just the same feeling of the bodies. What differentiates them is their coloring, their costumes, their everything else. And so when I'm designing my characters, I just want to make sure that when you look at one character and you just saw their silhouette, that the other silhouette of their character is a lot different, that it's not going to look the same at all. And I think that's what my determining factor is. I just don't want that form of repetition. I just don't want cookie cutter, so to speak, just the same thing over and over. And then one character, I don't even remember what these guys were for. I think it was some early development at Nickelodeon many, many years ago. And I just so I don't remember what their personalities or what the script was or the descriptions, but I just knew that one of them was part of just a superhero, family. The other guy was some sort of villain character that was maybe this guy, he was eating Texas food all the time, big, larger plates, big giant seal, eat the whole cow, or instead of just the leg, and is that sort of guy. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool indeed. Well, you can ask. Yeah, this is what we made this interview for, people. So you can ask any questions you would like.
Ask questions. There's many questions. Yes.
Yeah.
Ask away.
Well, we got. What's your daily practice?
So nowadays it's not so much of a daily practice. It's just because I work professionally and I do a lot of work for clients. Otherwise, I do a lot of teaching. But where my practice would be is I would go to life drawing once a week before it's shut down because of the pandemic. So that's something that I would do. My part of a daily practice. I like to say to people, a page a day keeps the competition away. Just do work and have a sketchbook and just draw something. Again, knowing what it is that you want to do. Maybe you're just practicing. What's your weakness? What do you struggle with? Maybe you struggle drawing front views of faces. Maybe you struggle drawing women. Maybe you struggle drawing men. Maybe you struggle drawing kids. Maybe you struggle drawing animals. What is it, something that you enjoy doing that you can just maybe implement? And so a lot of my daily practice was always having my sketchbook and going and drawing from life somewhere, whether I would go to the coffee shop and draw, but there's no necessarily real routine, as opposed to when you're learning and you're practicing, just make sure that you're doing it enough before you move on to the next lessons. So something that I do and tell my students a lot, I said, you're going to watch this video. Watch this video, but I want you to watch it enough times and draw from it enough times to where you can almost draw what you're doing from memory. Because when you can start to draw what you've learned from memory, that shows you that you've started to retain the information. And if so, you don't just want to learn something and then just jump onto the next thing. And that's what many artists are doing. They just do something, they watch a video, say YouTube or something, and then they draw it, or sometimes they don't even draw it. All they do is watch it, and instead of even putting it into practice. So a lot of people aren't even doing homework assignments, and these are very important things. You can't just watch and not do. You have to observe something, you have to analyze something, you have to put it into action, and you have to also determine, what did I just learn from that? Well, what were the things that I got out of that? And then if you're not going through those stages and those steps, then it just goes in one ear and out the other, and nothing really ever works for you because you have no true determination to truly figure something out. And sometimes you're in a class, maybe you're at a school, and it happened, you know, just in academic school. You're working, you got to read this chapter, we're having a test at the end of the week, and then we're moving on to the next chapter. It's like, whoa, 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 I haven't even learned this chapter. I don't even understand it. Why are you making me move on to the next lesson? And this is where a lot of people go wrong in that is, and when they're self-teaching themselves, they don't allow themselves to truly give something enough practice. Oftentimes it's because it's the boring stuff. Oh man, I got to draw the human figure. Oh, I got to draw. That's boring. I don't want to do. I just want to color. So I want to paint. You know, a lot of people are trying to get to the end result of an illustration before they've figured everything else out. What ends up happening is they're making a mess out of their drawings. I just want to get to the finish. So I see so many portfolios and so many artists' works that the drawings and the illustrations, they're all colored, but they're horrible. Because there's no foundation. There's no,
just like the gym. You have to go to the gym to train every muscle so you can get your whole body, full bodybuilding and full fine muscles. While if you concentrate on a single muscle, you are not going to build the whole body. You are building a single muscle or leaving the whole as a mess. This is what you just said, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It's all just part of the training ground, the balance of it, you know, but also taking breaks. You know, you can't keep working out all the time on the same muscle. Because if you're doing that all the time and you never give it any sort of relief, you can stress that muscle and you can hurt yourself. But that's how burnout happens. That's how people get burnt out. Because they are just figuring, oh, I'm going to draw for 8 hours today. I'm getting all my exercise instead of, well, maybe, what if you just draw for an hour for your practice, but you do that every day? So maybe you do that for 5 days out of the week, 6 days out of the week, right? So then you're building that muscle up slowly as opposed to just trying to power through it, where that's where a lot of the mentality is right now. I just got to power. I got to do it. There's so much competition. I got to get it done now. I got to do it now, you know, and they create all this turmoil as opposed to just sort of like truly surrendering to it all and just go at it with an ease of an understanding of what it is you want to be, of an ease of an understanding of what it is you want to do, and just slowly but surely building that up and allowing yourself to rest from time to time.
That's so amazing, actually, to hear. Thank you for that. Well, here's another question. While drawing a character, it can, for some people, designing a character, it's easy. But when they start making emotions, things get messed up with measurements of the face, spaces between the eyes, the nose, the mouth. And when they try to make the whole face from face to side, and he is smiling here while on the other side he is angry, the character looks whole different than the original design. So how do you master things like this?
One of the most important things is not to worry so much in the beginning about putting the character on model. You don't have to make, when you're doing those sketches, maybe my character has a triangle face. So that's what I'm working on. I'm just going to base it all around triangle. I'm going to move that triangle around in all these different areas. So I'm going to start on that shape first, right? And but it doesn't look like the character yet. It's just like I have my actual main model. You know, you want to make sure that you've done a finished drawing. And then from there, I start now I'm going to start to implement order. So I have my shape is number one. The next thing is order. Right. So now I'm thinking about my order. Well, I'm going to start with my eyes. So I'm starting with my eyes and I start to think about, look at the order of the eye, your eyes. Pay attention to the horizontal aspect of them and pay attention to the vertical. So the horizontal, how close are they together? If they're right next to each other, we got to make sure no matter what I do, if I move this around like this and my eyes are close together, it's going to work. But I can't start moving eyes over here, then over here and that, you know. Then it starts going, you know, a whole different character. So that's something that I'm very focused on. Don't put it on model. Just pay attention to your horizontals and your verticals. How far is the nose from the mouth? How far is the mouth from the chin? How far are the eyes from the forehead? So if I know my character has a small forehead, now I'm looking at this guy that you have on here on the left here, I want to keep that pretty consistent. Of course, if my head is going backwards, then it's going, these are the fundamentals. My head's going backwards, there's going to be less forehead. If my head's going forward, there's going to be more forehead, right? So what happens if my head, if I'm looking at you just straight on and you look at my nose to my mouth and you go, okay, there's quite a bit of distance. But now when I turn my head down, that distance is gone, right? My nose is now overlapping my mouth. So those are just general rules, fundamental rules that people don't know enough about. So they're trying to draw characters and expressions, yet they don't even know the fundamentals of the construction of building a face. So rule number one is learn how to draw a human face, learn how the muscles connect, you know, how do things connect in the face? And once you understand that, drawing it gets a lot easier. It's never, I don't find it ever easy. Don't get me wrong. It's always, when I got to draw a character multiple angles, it takes a lot of time. Because eventually you are trying to work all the right proportions and volumes of your characters. But I think those are some of the things to really pay attention to.
They are drawing what they know, not drawing what they see.
Exactly. Especially at that point, because there's nothing, you don't see anything right now. It's all in your imagination, right? So you're just drawing, what do I know? Okay, and then when you've done all your rough designs and sketches and you've kind of, you know, messed around with your horizontals and verticals, then I might start to go over, then I will start going over and tightening up my drawing a lot more and start to put it on model at that point.
That's amazing. This interview has helped me to think about how I draw. What do you find is the most enjoyable part of what you do as an artist?
Yeah, but for me now, the most enjoyable part is, in all honesty, just teaching what I've learned for myself. That's what I love about it now, that I've learned all this stuff and I've acquired the tools and now I get to share it with other people. And I find that extremely rewarding. And I love drawing over people's artwork more than doing designs for anyone. I love getting someone's drawing and helping them figure out how to make it better. And that's really the most enjoyable thing for me. And it's just the creation, the creativity, that everything's unlimited, that everything's on a blank sheet of paper at first, and that you get to design and create. What do you want to make? What story do you want to tell? What character do you want to design? What's your imagination? What's in there? What can you get in there and just put it out on paper? Where a lot of people who aren't artists, you know, either musically or anything else, can't express that. It's trapped in there, you know, that voice. And here we get to express our voice. I also love the fact that I'm never bored, is that if ever I have to wait in line somewhere, I'm at an airport, I'm at some place where there's a lot of waiting, I have my sketch pad and I can just start drawing and fill up plenty of time. And I don't have to go to my phone and I don't have to look at all this other stuff. It's just like I get to put down on paper whatever I want. And that's one of the greatest things I think about being an artist, is to use our imagination.
It's amazing, actually. So We got another one. How can one be more realistic about the field? I'm stuck with my personal point of view, and it's not that obvious. Like used to have my own, not complete stories and characters that have no references. How can I skip this to what is really worse and be more flexible?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to just digest that question. How can I be more realistic about the field? There's it's all your own self-determination. Okay. I will always remember this story. There's an artist, a musician named Bon Jovi. I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar with Bon Jovi. And he was also, very famous. And when he was 18 years old, he was told by his guitar teacher. The guitar teacher said to him, he said, John, are you in this for play or are you in this for keeps when you do this? And what does that mean? Are you in this for play? If you're in this for play, just keep messing around. Don't really make any real goals. Don't really set any schedule for yourself. Just practice guitar when you're going to practice guitar. Grab it when it's there. But if you're in it for keeps, and you really want to do this, then you know what it takes. It requires you to kind of just pick up that guitar every day and put in those hours every day and get to where you want to go. And he knew at that point, I'm in this for keeps, that this is what I really want to do. So how can you be more realistic about the field? If you're stuck with your own personal point of view, sometimes that artist tends to be more of a fine artist. Sometimes that artist who's so into their own personal point of view, they become authors. They have their own graphic novel. They're not working for other people. So maybe that might be something that you want to consider. Is like, listen, I got to tell my own stories. I got my own point of view. I want to just, but you said, it's obvious, like I used to have my own not complete stories and characters that have no references. How can I skip this to what is really worse and more flexible? The thing is, you can't skip it. There is no skipping it. There's no skipping any of this stuff. It's like determining that this is what you want to do and continue with those stories. But again, have an outcome for yourself. I want to make this into my own comic book. I want to make it into my own graphic novel. What is it that you want to do? Or I'm going to tell it in a painting and I want to sell it at galleries. And that way because sometimes having your own personal point of view isn't conducive to the studio environment, especially in animation, because you're working in an environment where there's directors and producers, and there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen they're going to tell you, this is the project, we're doing this, and this is what we need you to do, go and do it. And I want to see drawings by the end of the day. So what you're a commercial artist. So maybe being a commercial artist, being paid to do other people's visions isn't what you're really meant to do in this life. Maybe you are just supposed to do your own thing, and that's your own determination that you have to come up with.
Well, we do thank you for the answer indeed. It seems like he doesn't have. I felt from the questions that this person doesn't have enough encouragement to make him finish or complete his own project. So, is there any advice you can give him to make him start finishing things?
Finish, yeah, just start finishing. It is a tricky question, and I say it just because we're all so different. It's like sometimes we want to say that there's a one size fits all sort of answer to it, but my quick answer is just do it, just finish it, just start it and just finish it and just go. And but then again, what is that thing in your life that you've experienced maybe as a child or an adult or something that's stopping you from doing that? What is it? Was it someone told you you're not good enough? Is that what stopped you? Was it someone telling you that you'll never make it as an artist and just there's no career being an artist? Is that what's stopping you from finishing? Is what's stopping you from finishing because you're posting stuff on social media and not getting enough likes, and maybe you're not beating up on yourself. So there's so many elements that are going to determine that are going to come into play. But so all you can do is just for yourself, just set that goal and really have an end result, an intention. Like my intention is to create a cartoon character based on such and such because I want to make a poster design out of it. And so, okay, I got a poster in mind, and that's the idea. And so you just don't quit until you're done. So because a lot of people quit, they do just stop, they just give up. And a lot of it comes from rejection. They've been told no. In some way, they applied for a job and they were rejected. How many of those people actually go back and reapply to that job? Very few, because they've taken that rejection and that's it, game over. They turned me down. I'm not even going to try again. So then there's the other mentality, the mindset where you're like, no, okay, well, now I'm going to try even harder. I'm going to work again. I'm going to do it. I'm going to resubmit 2 months from now. And that's a different sort of person. So you get
this is what makes you a master.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And this, you get to decide. You get to decide whether you want to keep going or you're just going to quit. And again, there are so many quitters in this life for many different reasons, but it's the people. And like you said, it's what makes that person a master is that person who is willing to put in the hours, that person who's willing to fail, and keep going. And just have the perseverance just to keep getting up after they've been knocked down and do it again and again and again and not worry about what other people think, what other people say. True. And that's what moves you to that next level.
That's so right. Yeah, that's so right indeed. Well, we got another one. There is so many character designers out there that have different varieties of creating male character designs. They all look different than each other. When you start looking at their female character designs, they all look the same with different hair wig. So how can you be so different, and can you control designing female faces like just like you did with the male ones?
I think, again, a lot of this comes from the experience and looking at shapes and observation to where you start to just, I might look at something, a shape of, again, it could be a coffee mug. It could be anything. I might look at a microphone and go, wow, that has an interesting shape to it. And this is what's going to force you to just start going beyond your sort of shape language and everything else that you're doing. So again, it always falls back into observation and whether you're drawing from life, whether you're drawing from photographs and not just the imagination, because sometimes if all you're doing is just drawing from the imagination, and you're not paying attention to everything around you and you don't notice that new hairstyle and that, then it becomes a very limited formula. And that's why it's important to make sure you are drawing from life and from photo reference as well.
Well, we does indeed. Please pay attention to the Silver Way, the book from Stephen Silver, Techniques, Tips, and Tutorials for Character Designers, book by Stephen Silver here. It holds many keys and many answers to most of our questions. Here's a link. Will be in the YouTube description for it on Amazon, and I will be posting it on Facebook and on Twitch too. You can search for it, Stephen, the Silver Way, effective ways for character design. So here is another one. So one can do both commercial and our stuff we want to express. Well, I can't understand the question. But if you do understand it, feel free to answer it.
Well, yeah, I think just the question is, absolutely. Why can't you? You can do many things. You want to be able to do many things. So you're working on your own work that you do for yourself, for fun. You're drawing in your sketchbook, you're painting, you're doing whatever it is that you like to do to express yourself. and you're also getting clients because you've built a professional portfolio, you've built a professional looking website, and now you're moving into the marketing aspect of just reaching out to people. And that's another major factor that people need, is confidence within themselves and building that ability to realize that, you know, you're going to get rejected, and that's okay. And just because someone says no now about something doesn't mean that they won't say yes later on. And so you try and you experiment and you explore. And that's what this life and journey is all about.
That's so right, indeed. So, is there any future projects we are expecting from you?
You know, my biggest project, the biggest thing that I'm doing right now, I just recently started my own online character design school called the Silver Drawing Academy. And that's something where that's where all my heart and energy is going into. And then eventually I'm going to open up an actual live school, again, a physical studio to have people come. But again, a lot of my desires, my purpose, I'm very fortunate and thankful that I found my true calling and purpose in life. And that was to be a teacher. And so that's where I really put all my energy and efforts. And I hope to come out to Egypt someday and do a workshop out there. And, you know, I was traveling all over the world before the pandemic. And it's just something that
would be so awesome, actually.
Yeah. I love doing more than anything in the world. You're my connection now. You're my connection to come to Egypt, and I can come do a workshop out there. So
that would be an honor for me.
Great. Would be fantastic. But that's where my life is really at this time.
That's so cool. Well, at the end of our show here, we would like to have an advice for every artist and creator out there, so they can start making it from today, start achieving their goals from today. So what advice can you tell them?
So the advice I'm going to give you, actually, that the offset, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read just a little poem that I wrote. I'm going to read a little poem that I wrote here for you. Hold on, let me just grab it right here. Okay. It was a book that I wrote called Breaking Through Barriers, Words of Wisdom for Living Up to Your Potential. And the poem that I wrote is this. It's called As Long As You Are You. And it goes like this. All I have ever done is enjoyed what I ever do. My mind was open. My mind was clear. I did not stop to think of fear. I open up my mind, think of an idea, put it into action, and see what will appear. It can never be a failure because I learned along the way. If I did not succeed, I'll try another day. Stay calm and smile. Enjoy the things you do. Life will get much better as long as you are you. And that's my parting words. Just be yourself.
Well, actually, this is amazing. This is so amazing, actually, to hear. And it's amazing advice for all of us. It's really helpful. Aim forward. Please listen to what Steve Silver just said. It's actually going to help you get involved, get so much better as a creator, as an artist, achieve your goals. Everyone is gifted. So we are so glad to have you here with us today. We really, all of us, learned many things from you. So thanks to you again, Stephen.
Thank you so much for having me on. And again, I hope this was helpful for people out there. Just take away a little something. All you need is one little thing to take away. But just try. That's all you can ever do, is just keep trying and enjoy each day as it comes.
Yeah, that's so true indeed. Well, many thanks for our audience. We did enjoy our time with all of your questions. It was amazing to hear from you, all of you guys. Please, Stephen, I'm going to send you my webcomic on Tune to hear from you what you think of it. It will be a great honor for me to hear this from you. So, many thanks again, guys, for watching. Looking again for our next guest. So, many thanks again and goodbye.